this is Candace and welcome back to day 8 of my 100-day challenge. And so today I want to check in, but I also want to talk a little bit about rest and stress management because that hit big time today. It was like revenge of the stress. So quick update on my weight because, I've been tracking it along. So this morning I weighed in and I only weigh 383.0, which, yes, you're gonna first say, wait a minute, that's a gain of 0.8, which is not bad at all. And also along with that, yesterday was a really good first test of being out of my routine and what am I gonna do when I'm out of my routine. So I told you I went to a baby shower and it was so much fun. But I had to think through, how am I going to take my water? How am I going to, because you think it's simple, but when you're drinking a lot of water, it's like, okay, am I going to take a big water bottle, but that might be awkward. Where will I put it? Or am I going to take a small water bottle and just try to refill it? Then what if there's not a place to refill it easily? And so I had to think through that. And then I had to think through food because I didn't know if there was going to be, snacks. I didn't know if there was going to be a meal. I didn't know if there was going to be desserts. I mean, I kind of assumed there's probably going to be some kind of food and dessert. But even with that, it's like, okay, do I take a snack with me just in case? Or do I, what about my supplements? And do I shift around things? And, it worked actually really well overall yesterday, but I did eat some things I don't normally, or at least I've been trying to avoid. So I did have some, like cheese and crackers and but I tried to minimize the crackers and do more with the cheese and the little meat. And then I didn't do dessert. And I do have to thank my sister for that one too. There was a part of me that really didn't want it, but then there was a part of me that everybody was eating it and it kind of looked good. And I was like, well, maybe I should. And she was like, don't do it. And that, if you do it, you're not going to stop at one. Like these are the kind that you're not going to stop at one probably. And so I didn't do it, and so I enjoyed the tea. Which is unsweet tea, and I enjoyed the little bit of food, but then I chose like the healthy stuff that was there, and it was all good stuff. But I just made that decision for myself, which I don't always do because sometimes I feel awkward of like, oh well, it's here and everybody, that's what they have to eat, and I don't want to look like I'm not enjoying myself. But the point was, and I didn't think about that the whole time, but I did think about it before I went of like, what am I going to do? Because I realized once I get there, I'm going to be so focused on what's going on that I'm not going to want to be thinking through all these things while I'm sitting there, because that's not the point. The point is to go and celebrate this new life in addition to their family. And so I had to think through some of it beforehand, and it helped. It helped to prepare ahead of time of what am I going to do in these scenarios. Not obsess over it, but it's okay too sometimes. Like obviously I didn't sit there stressing over how many crackers I was eating, or if I was going to have one of the desserts, I would have tried to just stick with one little one, and I ended up not doing that at all, which is probably better. But it's not wrong to celebrate either, and especially in an occasion like that. But I did have to think about what's going to be worth to my health, my decisions, and what's, not my friends don't mind if I eat everything they have set out or not. There's people with genuine allergies, and you try to put on there what has in it and what, you might need to avoid for this or this. But, I think sometimes we obsess so much and then it gets us more stressed, and we realize that, later that it wouldn't have been a big deal. And so I think sometimes we need to think ahead of time when we know something was like coming up. So for example, I've thought about this too with the holiday seasons coming up. So I don't know what you celebrate. I don't know what your holidays are, but I know for both seasons of November, well really October for Halloween, and November commonly for Thanksgiving, and then Christmas in December. And then whatever other holidays you do or don't celebrate, I think it's important to think ahead of time of what are the strategies and habits I'm going to form now and have ready to go, because we kind of know that those tend to be the seasons where everything that sounds really great and probably tastes really great at the moment is available. So I've got to think through some of those things myself, and what am I going to do? What am I going to be okay with? And because I don't want to be obsessing in the moment, and I also don't want to be stressing over it, because that actually makes it worse. Because in fact, sometimes you stress over it and then you want things more because you have this reaction to it. So anyways, that was kind of my thoughts on yesterday. And so I wasn't really surprised when I gained 0.8. I was actually kind of surprised that I hadn't fluctuated a little bit more to maybe gaining back a pound. But with the net weight loss of 11.4, you know, that was shocking to me anyways. So having a little fluctuation is not going to be bad. So I think that's the other thing we need to remember, is not to stress and obsess over fluctuations in weight, because as long as you are trending downward in a healthy manner, you are forming healthy habits and healthy choices and balance in these areas, you're naturally going to see a decline on the scale. And it's not worth obsessing when sometimes you fluctuate or not, because sometimes that's a good thing. You're gaining muscle mass, or you have some water weight as you're drinking more water until you start being used to it and processing it. And so I just think that's important to know. So today, let's talk a little bit about stress management. Oh boy. So last night I was pretty restless. I'm still adjusting to getting on a better sleep schedule, and I still need to find, I've been doing different things to help with that, and I think I just need to keep finding what's going to help me. I know it's also an adjustment, because part of it is I've had such poor sleep for so long that I need to figure out what I'm doing now. And so I did. I went to bed, but I didn't actually fall asleep, and then when I did kind of doze off, it wasn't really the most restful sleep, and so it took me a long time to actually fall asleep. And then once I fell asleep, I was out, but then I had to get up early. Now I was able to get up early, but I was a little groggy, but I was okay. I got up, I did my routine, I did everything I needed to, and then it's like the dumb moments of Monday morning. I can't believe I never do this. It was crazy, and I think part of that was probably because of the poor sleep. I was so groggy, and my brain wasn't focusing like it should have been. And even though I drank my water in the morning, and I had my breakfast ready to go, and I was actually all ready to go and everything, and that's when it happened. That's when the incredibly dumb thing happened. It was just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I don't know about you, but those moments where you do something really, really actually kind of, it's not even that you did it on purpose. So I guess it's not really dumb in the sense that you chose to do it. It's just that it's so ridiculous. But then you stress, and then it so negatively impacts you that I think it's kind of almost, it's comedic. But then when you think about it, it's actually kind of sad how much it actually affects us. Something that small, that's not the end of the world. But so anyways, I was walking out the door, and I had my bags, and I had my waters and my lunch all ready to go, and I was so proud of that. I had everything ready to go, and I had taken my supplements and eaten some breakfast, and I had my powder ready to go for my water, and I had everything set and ready to go. And I realized I hadn't completely filled up my water bottle. So I stopped at the counter, and I really quickly filled it. And then I started walking out to the car. Well, moment here of the beginning, well, not even the beginning of the stress. I didn't even realize what was going on. And then all of a sudden, I went outside, and I closed the door, and I turned around to unlock my car, and guess what? Yeah, moment there of a little bit of panic, of that initial, literally, there was like a in that, and I said, no, I didn't do that, did I? And I literally looked around, was looking through everything, and guess what I did? I let the door close behind me, and I left my keys on the counter. Yeah, I left my keys to the house, to my office, to the different rooms that I have keys to. I I left my car keys, so I couldn't even, I could open the garage, but I couldn't actually drive the car because I didn't have my car keys. And stupidity number whatever in this scenario, I had not put my spare key out in an area anywhere, like a safe area where I could potentially find it. Because I'd been debating on whether to do that, and I thought, no, I need to make sure I have a good location that's safe and nobody's gonna know it's there and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I have not done that. And I also realized that like I haven't given all the keys to the friends and people and neighbors. And so, not that I was gonna give a bunch out, you know, but just the ones I was going to give out, I haven't done yet. And so the only person here in town, or well, nearby, who has a key is my sister. And she was getting my nephew ready for daycare and everything. And so I literally was sitting there, like, there was this moment of my brain just shutting down and about to go into panic mode. And here is what I want to talk about. It is so incredibly important to not live in stress. And we do. Our bodies in modern day live in so much stress, whether that's environmental stress, situational stress. So you can have your physical environment, you can have a situation that's stressing you, you can have a physical stressor, like an actual bodily physical stressor, whether that be pain or some kind of occurrence. You can have emotional or mental stress, something that has come up, somebody said something to you, you read something, whatever it may be. Spiritual stress too. You can have something that comes up and just sets you off in this cycle. And it is so prevalent today. It is so normal for us to be stressed and to live in this high, stress response is good because stress, or what I should say is that those reactions are protective. We have those reactions. We were created with that instinct to be able to see something wrong and go into action, to have the adrenaline, to have the focus, to save someone from a burning building, to run away from a dangerous situation, to get out of a dangerous situation and then turn and help someone else. We have responses to dangerous situations, and it's good. And our heart rate spikes and we get excited and we have this adrenaline rush and we can do so many amazing things. But we were not designed to live in that state permanently. And what happens when we face stress like that in day-to-day life is we have the same reaction. It's like we're reacting to something dangerous. Our body is preparing us to deal with a threat. And that can be anything. That can be mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, social, environmental, financial. Any of those can cause a reaction as if we're facing a life-threatening situation. And so I think what I had to do, and I've been working on this because stress is a huge thing that I've had to deal with, and I know we all do, but I definitely don't have the best responses to it. So it's something I've been working on. And so I had to, I think, number one, pause and just stop and breathe. When your heart rate picks up, when you do the inhale, the sudden inhale, when you do all these reactions and it gets this system going, I think it's so important to try our hardest to just stop and reset or shift focus. Because if we stay in this mindset, it's going to cycle us into this whole process and it's just going to snowball. And so if we can stop in the moment and breathe deeply, slow down our heart rate, just take a moment to take yourself out of the situation and pause, to be still. Because that is the moment in which we can receive some mental clarity, some focus to actually look at the situation and think, this is not life-threatening necessarily. Now, if it is life-threatening, yes, okay, don't ignore that. But most situations where we have this reaction are not the end of the world. And I know that me personally, I tend to have the response where I panic, I freak out, I get angry or frustrated, or just I'm on edge, and then everything snowballs from there, and it affects my morning and my entire day, and ultimately it's affecting my long-term health. So I had to stop and pause, and I took a moment to just pray and to just talk to myself and basically tell myself, stop. This is not the end of the world. Yes, you're locked out of your house right now, but you have everything with you. Someone else has a key that you can get to later in the day. So what's the immediate issue? Okay, getting into the car and getting to work. All right, so if the immediate issue is to let somebody know what happened and find a way to get to work, that's what I need to focus on. So then I was able to think through, okay, well, oh my gosh, though, if I can't drive, like it's the end of the world, nothing's gonna happen. And again, attempting to snowball of like, okay, this is not gonna happen. Well, then I had to pause and breathe and say, okay, wait a minute. I live in a city. I don't live in a huge city, but I live in a pretty decent sized city. There are ways of transportation. Do I have friends who live in here? Yeah. Do I have relatives? Yeah. So I texted and called some people, and unfortunately none of them were available. But you know what? Then I had to pause and think, okay, you know what though? That's not the end of the world either. There's Uber, there's Lyft, there's, I'm sure, different other kinds of things. There's bus, there's all kinds of things. So what I had to do is I had to pause and think, okay, is this really as bad as I'm making it sound? And like, yes, maybe I'm gonna be late. Okay, if I'm gonna be late, who do I contact to let know? And is this gonna be a situation that's really bad? Do I need to immediately do something? In this case, I had time to try to contact some people. Maybe if I had been in a situation where I knew that I needed to be there so fast. Yes, I was late to part of my stuff, but it turned out okay in this scenario. But I was able to, also, by the way, I did almost panic because there were no Ubers available. Because I actually tried that and they were not available. So then, of course, that almost triggered a new panic moment. And I had to stop and pause and realize, okay, that's not the end of the world either. I still can try. I can still figure something out. I have options. And so that was kind of the biggest thing I think for me, was I needed to stop, be still, breathe, pray, focus, talk to myself. If I had a little inspirational thing or something in my mind, I try to keep things in my head of like, you can do this, or it's okay, it's not the end of the world, and just things that I could tell myself. And trust. You don't need to lean on your own understanding. You can acknowledge God and He's going to help you in this. And I could think about maybe it's not going my way completely, but I don't think there's coincidences. So maybe there's some kind of reason. Maybe I avoided some sort of big traffic thing. I don't know what the reason was. Maybe it's just because I've been praying to learn more about patience. And maybe this was a way to learn about patience. I don't know. And so, but I do think it's incredibly important, no matter what you believe or what you think, that this is a real thing that happens to all of us. And it's important in those moments to stop and pause, evaluate the situation and say, is this really as bad as I'm making it seem? Because in this case, it wasn't. And even if it had been, there were things I could have done. And so I think it's important. Also, along with that, if you are stuck in such a stress moment, a panic moment, I think sometimes it just helps to move away, physically move away from the situation. Don't just, yes, breathing is important, but if separating yourself just mentally, emotionally, physically, in the sense of breath and stillness doesn't help, then physically move yourself. If there's a person standing next to you who's stressing you out, yes, be polite, but move yourself. Say, I'm sorry, I just thought of something I have to do. And in this case, it's a valid point. You're not lying, because I just realized I need to go and breathe and count to 10 maybe. Or maybe I just need to move away because I'm about to have a moment here where I just can't handle this, and I'm gonna cry, or I'm gonna be angry, or I'm gonna be sad, or what, I don't know, whatever the reaction is. But maybe you need to physically, genuinely move yourself. And sometimes that walking can also help our brain reset, because it starts to focus on, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going? What am I going to do here? So sometimes physically removing yourself from a situation, even if it's just, for example, as a teacher, even if it's a stressful moment where things are so loud and crazy and nothing's going the way you planned, and you just need to step outside the door for a second to physically separate yourself, where you're not away from your kids because you're not being unsafe, but you physically separate yourself just for a second. Or maybe in business, you briefly step out to go to the bathroom during a meeting because you take a break and you need to just physically separate, and you have a reason to, but again, not putting yourself in a bad situation or a negative situation for those who depend on you. And so I think that's another good point too, is to just physically move yourself. If you have time and this is still becoming a day-long thing, then do something different too. Physically separate yourself by doing something. Maybe you journal that and say, I just need to journal how I'm feeling right now. I just need to get this out there, write it down so I can get rid of it, physically and mentally get rid of it. So maybe you write it down, maybe you draw it out. And maybe if it's negative stuff, you crumple it up or you tear it up and you throw it in the trash and say, not today, not today. This is not going to affect me today or in this moment. And so now then the next challenge, I got to the school, and the next challenge was to get done what I needed to, which I did. But also as I was sitting in the teacher's lounge working on some stuff, I looked over and there was leftover birthday cake from Friday. And there was this immediate, almost need, I will say need. Those of you who say it's all willpower, bleh, like yes, in a way, sorry, in a way it is. But just, there was this genuine moment of I had had such a morning where even though I was doing well, even though my responses were good, there was still this temptation to go over and eat the cake and just say, I deserve it right now because it's been a tough moment. And maybe in some situations, I would just be very careful of what you're kind of rewarding yourself with for handling a situation well. I just would be careful in that. And so then anyways, I did resist it. It was difficult because I wasn't genuinely trying to put myself in a situation where I had to resist it, but I did have to actually resist it, and I did. It actually wasn't as hard when I started focusing back on my work. And I grabbed a little handful of nuts that I had with me, and then I had my metabolic advantage in my water bottle. I just drank some of that, and I just thought, you know what? And then I even thought about my reasons of, is this going to be worth it? And is this what I want to reward? Do I want to reward this sort of mentality, not to punish myself, but do I really want to give up part of my physical health just because of a moment that happened that was out of my control, but that I was able to handle and deal with? Do I really want to make a step back that could really actually do some damage? And so now one thing I did do is when I had to leave early because I had to take the ride I had available. My sister was so nice, and while she was out and busy, came and got me. And then I just went with her on a couple errands, and then I came home. And so while I was out and about, I couldn't do anything because I was in the car waiting. So I just listened to an audiobook. And again, that mental separation of, I'm going to focus on something different. And it helped. And then when I got home, it was late enough where I wasn't able to, it's still early, I should say. But when I got home, I actually, I did physically need to take a nap. And there was that moment of like, oh, I don't need to take a nap. I need to push through. And the realization of this maybe is a healthy choice to regenerate. Okay, so, and I did need it, and it did help, and I am up and awake and alert. I would say, be careful how much you nap, because there actually, when I woke up, there was a temptation to just lay in bed because I had a bit of a stressful day. And even though I'd handled it better than normal, I still had this, it still affects you physically. So I had to also then think, okay, I can do this. I can go to bed again tonight early. I can take it easy some later tonight, but I do need to get up now for my own health and for the things I need to do. And so, I did take a nap, and I would say, I read an article recently, I'm trying this, so don't, quote me on this, but I know in general, it's best for shorter naps. I know they say, anywhere from 12 to 15 minutes. I read an article, well, I guess it's been a while ago, about actually a couple different ones. There's been some studies that show maybe sleeping either a half hour or an hour and a half keeps you from too short, but also too long, if that makes sense. So I've been trying it. It's actually working really well. Yes, there was a temptation to continue to sleep, but when I got up, I'm feeling fine. I feel great. And I know I'll go to bed again tonight and not be affected by it, but I did end up sleeping about an hour and a half. The physical side was really, there was some exhaustion there because it was tough today to deal with the snowball effect. And you kind of think, oh, that shouldn't be that hard, but it is. It is. And especially when we honestly live in a high constant stress lifestyle in the United States, especially, but in general in modern life, people are just stressed to the hilt and it's crazy. And so I think that was an okay decision. That was an okay thing to make a call for. And I still ate lunch, and I've done all my other things today, which has been good. I had breakfast, I had some fruit and some nuts, and I was a little less hungry, but I did still eat, and I still ate a healthy breakfast. I took my supplements. I had my first MetaPower Advantage. Then for lunch, I had some salad and some leftovers from the chicken pasta I made last week. And then I had my other MetaPower Advantage. And then for dinner, what I'll do is have some leftovers again. And I have some really good of that tofu, and I still have some pasta left. So I'm gonna see which one I want. I don't really easily get tired of food, so I'll eat, if you want to eat something different in the moment, that's fine. Just make sure you have something. I have some vegetables and other things I could do if I want. So anyways, I know that ended up being a longer talk for today, but I did, food-wise, did great today. Did not give into the cake temptation, did not give into the chocolates or the cookies. There were also giant cookies there. I did not give into those. I did have some coffee, but I chose the decaf, so I wouldn't increase my stress response, because that can actually increase your stress response as well. I put just a little tiny bit of creamer in it, no sugar, no flavor creamer, just like simple half and half, just a little bit. And I may tonight, if I have any kind of dessert, I've been finding that I love dark chocolate, so I'll either have some dark chocolate, which is healthier than milk for sure, milk chocolate, but white chocolate was not even, we don't even count that. I don't like white chocolate very much, which is probably a good thing because it's basically like pure, yeah, anyways. So I might have some dark chocolate, just a little bit, or I've really been enjoying the yogurt with the tropical blend, the tropical oil blend, just a couple of drops in that is so good. It's got all the citrusy like flavors and it's really, really good. But so I might do that. And if I do, it's not gonna be, I'm not trying to make that like a rewarding that sort of cycle, but I do wanna just, make sure that I'm aware that there are times where, you don't need to starve yourself from enjoyment either. There's balance, it's balance in everything. And so, anyways, though, I don't want to stick around on things too long because I know this has turned out to be a longer video, but I think it's important to talk about stress management and rest, and I'll share more as I figure out more about what I'm going to do. But I like to think that today was successful, even if I am just kind of needing that break right now. And a lot of the things that I planned to do didn't work out quite that way, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. There's always tomorrow. And there's always a chance to do things again. And if not, you need to prioritize. And in this case, none of the things I needed to do were more important than my health. And because I wouldn't have been able to do the things I needed to without taking the break and taking the moments. And I needed that nap. But I've also been able to get things done since then. So anyways, I just wanted to share that today because it was the dumbest and almost, now that I look at it, hilarious. Like in that moment, I actually had to laugh, which by the way, that was another help when I was stressed, was I had to genuinely just laugh out of just like ridiculous awe of like, how in the world did this happen? Because I never do this. And so this was pretty funny actually when I look back on it. I felt like I was in some sort of like sitcom where like any moment there's gonna be like audience laughter at the idiocy of the person on the set. So anyways, I probably need to go because I've turned this into a super long video, but I do think it's important, and I hope you got something out of it. What are your guys' ways to deal with stress? I'm still learning to do this, so if you have ideas for how you deal with stress and management or even rest, let me know and comment below. I'd love to hear what you have to say too. And yeah, all right. Well, I hope you have a less stressful or just stress-free rest of your day, and that you are able to have a good Monday. All right, well, I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.